All right, guys, we're going to finish up cellular stuff today. We're going to talk about homeostasis and cell transport. So if you guys see the term homeostasis, that basically means keeping your body at a nice, even balance, keeping it steady. So just a couple of simple examples. If you get too hot, you sweat. If you get too cold, you shiver. If you drink more water than normal, you pee more than normal. If you drink less water than normal, you pee less than normal, and so on. So that's what homeostasis is, and it happens at the cellular level as well. Okay, so for this chart here, you're actually going to show water moving in and out, or particles moving in and out, etc. Okay, so they want you to use the arrow for that, and I've already done that. And it has the different types of transport up here and their specific names here, and then a summary. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand the difference between is passive transport and active transport. So what they say in the news now is that Americans have a passive lifestyle. So passive kind of is a nice word for lazy. All right. So passive means if you're passive on the couch watching TV or whatever, you have a passive lifestyle, that means it does not require much energy, okay? So in terms of the cell, passive actually means no energy required. So it does not require any energy to make these processes happen, okay? Active transport, on the other hand, does, and the word active should give that away for you. So these three are passive, these three are active. Okay, so for simple diffusion, and this is how small molecules enter, like glucose or oxygen or carbon dioxide, okay, no energy required. They move from a high concentration to a low concentration. So think you're trying to equal things out. So do you see how you have like 6 particles here and only 2 here? So if you were trying to make things even, make things fair, 2 particles would move from here to over here. Okay, that's simple diffusion. It does not require any energy for that to happen. All right, facilitated diffusion is the exact same thing, except if you'll notice, they have a channel to get through the cell membrane. Okay, so it is actually called a channel. So think about like how the bridge opens in New Bern if a boat's trying to get from one side to the other, right? It just leads them through there. But still, you're going from where there's a lot to where there's a little. So there's 6 here, 2 here. So again, 2 ideally would travel through here to make it even. All right. Now, osmosis is the exact same thing as simple diffusion, except osmosis deals only with water. So these little Mickey Mouse looking molecules here are water because it's H2, right? And then an oxygen. So 4 here, 1 here, they're going to start moving through to make it equal. All right. So again, simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis are all forms of passive transport. They all move from high to low, and none of them require energy. All right? Okay, so on the flip side, let's look at the forms of active transport. Active transport is the opposite. They move from low to high, and it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? That you already go from someplace that's low to someplace that's high. That would be like if you had 2 biology classes and one person had 28 students and the other class had 10, and a new student comes here and you put it in the 28 class instead of the 10 class. Okay, but the reason this happens here is for some specific function. Like there's something in your body called a sodium-potassium pump that make your muscles fire, and this has to happen in order for that to go through. Okay, so from low to high against the concentration gradient, so therefore it does require energy. Just think about like if you're trying to swim upstream or you're trying to swim against the current in a lazy river. Okay, it requires energy on your part. And these two are pretty easy, endo and exo, in a cell, out of a cell. These require energy because the food particles or the waste products are so large that it requires energy to get rid of them. Okay, so 3 examples of active transport are protein pumps, endocytosis, exocytosis. This one goes against the concentration gradient. You're going from where there's already a lot. You're trying to go into that, so you're forcing them in. And these are large particles, so it requires energy on the cell's part. So guys, look for action words for active transport, like pump, force, push, things like that. And if it says it requires energy or ATP, pick active transport, okay? All right, so moving on, another thing that can be included in cells are photosynthesis and respiration, just because they are cellular processes, okay? So photosynthesis, will start there. The organelle responsible for that, if you remember the previous video, is the chloroplast. It is unique to photosynthetic organisms like plants, algae, some protists, some bacteria can do photosynthesis. Okay, all autotrophs can, in other words. So the two main ingredients are carbon dioxide and water. The leaf normally takes those things in through the leaf and through the roots, okay? And then the products are sugar and oxygen. All right, so carbon dioxide and water go in, sugar and oxygen come out. Now, y'all, if it asks you the purpose of photosynthesis, don't pick to make oxygen. Lucky for us, that is what happens, okay? But the purpose of photosynthesis is to turn inorganic ingredients into organic compounds for food. Oxygen just happens to be a byproduct, which we get, okay? Now, respiration, on the other hand, happens in the mitochondria, so it is the exact opposite. If you guys know this formula, then all you have to do is switch it around and you have respiration. So you have to take in sugar and oxygen. Even if you don't eat sugar, your body breaks everything down to glucose, okay? And you need oxygen, obviously. You breathe that in, then you create the energy you need, and you release carbon dioxide and water. So photosynthesis and respiration are perfect partners because photosynthesis creates sugar and oxygen, and respiration burns sugar and oxygen. So the products of this one are the reactants of this one, and vice versa. The products of this one are the reactants of this one. All right? So all organisms do a form of respiration. This is where students go wrong on the exam. They say that this happens in plants and this happens in animals, which you have this part right. Photosynthesis can only happen in plants, but respiration happens in all organisms at some level. Okay, then another thing that might be on there about respiration, and there are two forms: aerobic respiration, which is what we do, which is what most organisms do. Aerobic means there's plenty of oxygen available, okay? So you get 36 ATP molecules from that, and ATP just means energy. Do I need you to memorize 36? Absolutely not. But what I need you to understand is that with oxygen, aerobic respiration, you get way, way, way more energy than you do without it, okay? So anaerobic respiration means without oxygen. Now, I don't want you to think that someone is like physically choking you, okay? But what I mean by anaerobic is there's not much oxygen around. So as an example, if I were to go outside and run around the track a few times, I would be absolutely dying for oxygen. That's what I mean by anaerobic, okay? Notice this only gives you 2 energy molecules. It's basically enough for the cells to survive at that moment. But cells cannot continue anaerobically for a long time unless they're designed to do so. Okay, there are some bacteria that can do that their entire life and they can be fine. All right, but we are aerobic organisms. We need this much energy every time. Okay, so if it asks you a question about how they compare, just say something like you get way more with aerobic respiration than you do anaerobic. And you need to know the difference. Aerobic is with oxygen, anaerobic is without. Remember, the prefix "an" means not. So no air, if you want to look at it that way. And this one means air. Okay? Okay, so guys, the next few slides and on the other paper, there are some practice questions that you can do. If you need the answers to these, please let me know and I will send it to you. I didn't want to do everything on this paper for you because I did want you to practice a little. Sorry about that interruption. So guys, these are some practice questions that I'd like you to try, okay? Notice the diagram looks very similar to what I gave you, okay? See if you can name, like this one is asking about protein synthesis, but see if you can name all of these, okay? That way you know what you're looking for. And these are very old questions, so they may not apply to this exam, but I think the majority of these do. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of practice questions here for you to try. And like I said, if you need the answers, you let me know. Okay, so our next lesson is on DNA. You guys do the practice stuff that I have, so you'll be better prepared for the exam. That's the week after next, okay? Thank you.